right, now that we have these two dependencies, let's go ahead and open up the resources folder in here and open up application.properties. So in this application.properties, this is what we use in order to define any properties that our application will use. So we can either use YAML syntax or .properties. Let's go ahead inside and define a couple of properties. So here I want the data source URL. So here I'm going to use some basically auto completion, and you can find all of this in the description of this video as well. So this will be JDBC and then column and then post and then gress QL, and let me put this full screen, and this should be JDBC, JDBC and then PostgreSQL and then column / local host column 5432 and then / the database name. So here I'm going to say Amigos and then code. Basically, you can see that this is localhost 5432. So this is what we're doing, localhost 5432, and then we are missing the database, which I'm going to create in a second. Now let's define the spring.data and then source, and we want the username data and then source. So let me get auto completion. So data source dot and then username. This will be Postgres. So remember before. So if I use basically PSQL to connect to our database, you can see that we said user and then Postgres. So the same here, and then spring dot data source dot and then password, and the password was password. Now we also need to specify a couple things for JPA. So here I'm going to say DDL and then auto, and you can see that this is spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl.auto. And for now, let's just say create drop. So this is so that we can test our changes when we define the actual model that will connect to our database. But obviously, if you're going to use, for example, in production or an environment where real users use it, then probably you want to say, for example, update, right? Or maybe none if you're using something like Liquibase or Flyway. So here, let's just say create drop because we are in testing mode. And also we want to show, so show SQL equals to true. And let's have this, so spring dot and then JPA dot and then properties. And then here we want to have hibernate dot and then dialect, and this will be equals to org dot hibernate dot dialect dot postgres SQL and then dialect. Finally, what we need is to basically have the same property, so JPA dot and then properties, and we want to have dot and then hibernate dot and then format underscore SQL equals to true. And you're going to see this in a second. So now what I want you to do is to go ahead and try and start the application. So here, let's play and let's see whether we can connect to our database. So make sure that the database is up and running in here. And if you forgot, so basically we said docker and then run. You can see that this was the command, right? So docker run -it rm, and then this is how we run the database. If I cancel out of that, go back here, you can see that we actually have an error, right? So if I scroll up, let me just scroll up, and you can see that database Amigos code does not exist. And this is what I said, right? So Amigos code does not exist. So let's together create this database. So I'm going to hide for now here. And then in here, let's connect to our database using PSQL. So here, docker run -- oh, actually not that one. So let me press up a couple of times. And here, so docker run minus IT dash dash RM network so that we can connect to our database, and then say PSQL dash H DB. This is the name of the container, minus capital U, Postgres, the username, enter. And here, let's go ahead and simply say password. And I got it wrong, so let me just clear the screen, try again. Pass and then word. There we go. We are connected. And now, if I say create database and then Amigos code, semicolon there, enter. There we go. Now I want you to type backslash and then L. And you can see that we have this database here. So list of databases, we have Amigos code in here. Now let's go back to IntelliJ and let's restart the application. And hopefully this should work. And there we go. You can see that Tomcat started on port 8080 and no errors. But if I scroll up, you can see that we have a couple things here. So we have the dialect. So this is the one that we've just specified. So this is PostgreSQL. And we have basically the JPA platform. So using JPA platform and initialized JPA, which is good. And also entity manager for persisting unit as a default. And we are good to go. So if I open up my web browser and then here, let's say localhost 8080 and then API and then v1 and then students, enter, you can see that we have this data right here. But currently this is not coming from a database. And remember, inside of the student controller, we have this static list. So next, let's go ahead and change things so that we can have a table in our database called student.